The Steelers picked up a 34-12 victory against the AFC North rival Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. Here are 3 questions for them and the rest of the NFL to ponder ahead of NFL Week 11, when they'll travel to face the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. Has the defense put the worst of its struggles behind it? Coach Mike Tomlin touted a potentially historic unit during training camp, and that's probably not coming to fruition. Progress, for now, seems like the standard to hold this group to. And the win Sunday was a great sign of it against a team that had caused the defense problems earlier in the season. There were turnovers generated, defensive touchdowns by Kyle Duggar and James Pierre, but team success did not rely on them like it did in big wins against New England and Indianapolis earlier this year. The Bengals' offense was forced to punt 4 times in addition to allowing 2 defensive touchdowns. So it was a nice balance of playmaking with consistency. The run defense was also a lot better on a down-to-down basis. Yes, Chase Brown finished with nearly 100 yards for the day, but he averaged just 3.7 yards if his long run of 35 yards is taken out of the equation. The flow of the Bengals' offense was a lot more limited than when he churned out regular gains of 7, 8, and 9 yards like he did in Cincinnati. In sum, it feels like this group is trending toward league average. Not what we were promised, but not terrible either. You probably would have taken that a month ago after the loss to this division rival. So the progress seems worth celebrating right now, even if lots of work remains to live up to the preseason hype. How tough of an out will the Bears be? They're starting to take on the profile of the Commanders team the Steelers picked up one of their signature wins against just over a year ago, moribund in their recent history but given new life by a young quarterback who's starting to find his way. Notably, Caleb Williams did not play his best game Sunday against Minnesota, completing just 16 of 32 passes for 193 yards and no touchdowns. Still, he avoided mistakes and made the plays necessary at the right time to capitalize from 140 yards on the ground, 90 of which came from teammate DeAndre Swift. Defensively, the Bears forced Vikings quasi-rookie J.J. McCarthy into a pair of interceptions and allowed just 265 yards of total offense. Many Steelers fans counted this one as a win early in the season. Now that it's not, it could reveal a lot about the Steelers' year-to-year growth if they can handle a young team on the rise yet again. Will Steelers lament the Browns' near miss? Lamar Jackson did not have his best game for the Ravens on Sunday in Cleveland. The former MVP tossed a pair of interceptions, took 5 sacks, and finished the evening with a putrid passer rating of 47.6. One of those picks was returned by old Steelers friend Devin Bush for a touchdown that helped the Browns build a 16-10 lead heading into the fourth quarter. That was when the running game took over for Baltimore. Derrick Henry set up a field goal with a 56-yard dash to open the frame. Then tight end Mark Andrews scored on a 35-yard direct snap that gave his team the lead late. In the end, the Ravens survived Jackson's struggles with 193 yards on the ground. And the division gap to the Steelers remains one with a favorable schedule looming. Baltimore will face the hapless New York Jets, then the Bengals in their next 2 games. So this latest Browns collapse will likely sting in the Steelers' locker room as they search for the breathing room they've squandered from the Ravens' 1-5 start. Head coach Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers told reporters Tuesday that he wasn't going to comment on the suspension Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase received for spitting at Steelers cornerback Jalen Ramsey during Week 11. However, Tomlin was obviously not happy about the incident. The head coach appeared to try to keep his answer brief, but Tomlin did address Chase spitting on Ramsey. It's an unfortunate incident. It's not an act that's common to the game of football, Tomlin told reporters Tuesday. It has nothing to do with football. I'm not going to comment on it. The NFL office rendered their judgment, and so, we're moving on. In reaction to Chase spitting, Ramsey punched the Bengals wide out. When asked a follow-up question about whether Ramsey should have responded differently, Tomlin was at a loss for words. I have no message if someone spits in your face. Do what comes natural, said Tomlin. Officials ejected Ramsey for punching the Bengals receiver. Chase received a 15-yard penalty, but for engaging in the fight, not for spitting. The Bengals wideout was not ejected. On Monday, though, the NFL announced a 1-game suspension for Chase in Week 12. Mike Tomlin declined comment on Ja'Marr Chase suspension. In October, not everyone loved Tomlin being so forthright about his feelings on the Cleveland Browns trading quarterback Joe Flacco to the Bengals. Essentially, Tomlin stated the trade didn't make a lot of sense. The Steelers head coach was probably wise not to share his honest opinion on Chase's spitting suspension. Chase is the first player to be suspended for spitting at an opponent in NFL history. Philadelphia Eagles defensive lineman Jalen Carter wasn't suspended in Week 1 after spitting on Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. However, Carter received an ejection before the first play of the game for the spit. Again, officials didn't eject Chase in Week 11. It's possible Tomlin didn't want to address the NFL's punishment for Chase because he felt it should have been more games. But given the fact the league has never suspended a player for spitting previously, it's hard to argue Chase should have been more severely punished. It's more likely Tomlin didn't want to address Chase's one-game suspension just in case a Steelers player commits a similar crime at some point. If that happens and Tomlin is on record saying he agreed with Chase's punishment, the Steelers could potentially lose leverage in an appeal. Smartly, Tomlin made his feelings on Chase's spit rather clear without explicitly stating them entirely. Jalen Ramsey explains reaction to Chase spit. Current and former players have voiced loudly the past couple days how disrespectful it is to spit at a football opponent. That was clearly Ramsey's take on the situation. "I don't give a expletive about football after that, respectfully," Ramsey told reporters after the game. "I'm always going to be all for trash talking, expletive stuff like that. I actually enjoy that part of the game. I think people know that." As soon as he spit, it was like, expletive that. NFL coaches typically want their players to put the team ahead of themselves. If Ramsey had done that, he would have turned the other cheek and not responded to Chase's spit. Punching the receiver only resulted in hurting the Steelers. But if Tomlin had any issue with Ramsey responding the way he did, the head coach didn't show it to the media. Chase is appealing his one-game suspension. He has yet to address the incident since he declined it happen immediately after the game. Following Chase's denial after the game, Fox 19 Sports photographer Austin Brisky posted video on X Sunday evening of Chase clearly spitting at Ramsey. While his status for Week 12's game against the Chicago Bears remains up in the air, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers got a positive update about his injured left wrist on Tuesday. Tom Pelissero shared on Tuesday that he and Ian Rappaport were informed that Rodgers will not require surgery on his injured wrist. Despite that, his status for Week 12's matchup with the Bears remains unclear. Rodgers is pushing to play Sunday at Chicago, Pelissero said on X, but doctors must clear him and his status moving forward is TBD. Rodgers was sidelined for the second half of Week 11's win over the Cincinnati Bengals, with Mason Rudolph playing in his stead. The Steelers were leading 10-6 when Rodgers left the game and went on to win 34-12. In Rodgers' absence, Rudolph was 12 for 16 passing, throwing for 127 yards with 1 touchdown and no interceptions. Before leaving, Rodgers was 9 for 15, throwing for 116 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions. Sunday's matchup against the Bears is a battle of first-place teams. Chicago leads the NFC North at 7-3 while Pittsburgh sits atop the AFC North at 6-4. Rodgers has started every game for the Steelers this year, completing 66.4% of his passes for 1,969 yards with 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 97.7 passer rating.